So welcome to today's video. I've decided to record today a little how-to guide. The weather's rubbish, it's been windy, it's been rainy, it's been pretty blowy and the waves have been pretty big and it's not really been suitable for kayak fishing. So today I'm here to talk you through how I started kayak fishing, the setup that I bought, and maybe that helps you to decide what you want to do. So here's episode 1 on how to start kayak fishing. I think it's really important to discuss in this how-to is one of the reasons I started kayak fishing was because of lockdown. It was a bit rough. I didn't do well in lockdown at all with COVID-19. So I decided that I was going to start kayak fishing. I've been watching the likes of Robert Field and Rocket for a long time. If you haven't seen their YouTube channel, what are you doing here watching me? Go and watch them. They're much better than me, but they were the people that sort of got me into kayak fishing. Rocket has a stealth kayak. That's a dream kayak for me. Really would like to buy a stealth kayak. That's going to take me a little while for me to get the money to do that, but I am going to get a stealth kayak in the future. Robert Field, on the other hand, he has Lightning Kayaks, which I think is his own brand. I'm not 100% sure. He's certainly heavily involved in the design of those kayaks. I don't know if they're available in the UK, but the pedal drive isn't really for me. I like the action of paddling. So stealth kayak, that's a kayak I'm going to look to get. But that's how I got my passion for kayak fishing, was watching people like Robert Field and Rocket. If you haven't seen them, go and check them out. What you're going to need is, first of all, is a kayak. The kayak I have is a Galaxy Sturgeon. It's a good kayak, it's wide, it's stable, it's about 14 foot long, it's got lots of little hatches for things, and it does me really well. It's got 2 rod holders at the back. I would quite like one on the front for putting my rod in, but you know what? It does me pretty well. I started out on a Bic kayak. It was 10 foot, green, you can see it here in some of this video. But for me, it was a little bit too choppy in the seas. East Lothian, we get quite a lot of easterly, if we get any easterly swell, it can really chop up the sea. We get quite a lot of wind over tide, just due to the nature of being on the edge of the Forth. And that run, and that tidal run, really affects the stability of the kayak. So I went for a Galaxy Sturgeon.
It's got a bit exciting here. So let's start heading in. The wind's calmed down. The sea has got somewhat rougher. Just have to be careful.
If you want to know a little bit more about Galaxy Sturgeon kayaks, check out On The Drop Fishing. His channel has a great range of kayak videos. He's got a Galaxy Sturgeon. He started off in a Mark II, I think. He might correct me on this. He then moved to an FX, which is the pedal drive, and he's now testing the motor for the pedal drive kayak. And you can watch his videos. He's got a great set of videos. So go and check him out on The Drop Fishing. After a kayak, you're going to need a paddle. I have the standard paddle that came with the kayak. I've heard some great things about other paddles, but I've got the one that came with the kayak. It was free, came with the kayak, and it does the job for me. I have left it a few times in the van, but when I remember, I take it down to the beach and I've got it with me. Otherwise, you'll see me running back for it in some of these videos. So the next thing you're going to need is a PFD. Like I said, this is the second time of recording this. The first time the PFD was dry. I got out on the kayak yesterday, so my PFD's still wet because it's been raining outside. But I've got NRS Oddesy. This is a really nice kayak fishing PFD. It's got lots of different pouches to have things. You'll see me reaching in here all the time for my radio, my knife. I keep some lures in here. I hate changing lures out in the kayak, so I try to keep them in my jacket. Really good PFD. I really like it. It does me really, really well. I tried to go for the fishing version, the Chinook version. It was out of stock. The company I bought it from very kindly sent me the upgraded touring version for free. Really comfortable. I really like it. It's a great PFD. Having a PFD is really important. If you come out in the water, you need to be able to float. As the Royal Life Saving Society say, float to survive. You must have a way of floating. A PFD is essential for kayaking. That brings me on to my next point. clothing. I use an NRS Kayaks. I think this is an NRS Riptide Kayaks. Again, soaking wet because I used it yesterday and I've rinsed it, but really good Kayaks. It's a two-piece. I wear this and I match this with Peak dry trousers. I'm not entirely sure the Peak dry trousers are named, they're just dry trousers. This is a really, really great bit of kit. Keeps me dry, keeps me warm. In the winter, I layer up underneath it. And to be honest, even when I have gone in and got wet, I've stayed warm. I've kayaked in April when it's 6 degrees. I've kayaked in summer when the water temperature is 6 degrees. And I've kayaked in summer where the water temperature is 15, 16, maybe 18 on the east coast of Scotland, but that's really pushing it. The two-piece does me really well. In the summer, 32-degree heat, not typical Scottish weather, but a big heat wave. I had some zinc on and a sunproof top, a technical sunproof top, but I always keep my dry trousers on. I just don't like getting a wet bum on my kayak seat, so.
I got a fish on. I got a fish on. I think I do have a fish on. Nice. Hey, you alright guys? Come on then. In you come. Good to see you lads. Welcome. Oh, you're tangled around the sounder. Great. Jesus, decent fish. The rod. Get the fish. Oh no, one of them came off.
Wear clothing that suits you. If you're in hotter conditions, you're going to need something that you're not going to overheat in. If you're kayaking in Scotland, I'd recommend a dry suit. I don't wear a dry suit. I like the two-piece, especially if I'm fishing, if I'm kayaking in a sitting kayak. I like the two-piece, but whatever you wear, you have to be warm and or cold, depending on where you're kayaking. You have to be wearing clothing that's suitable for you. So your kayak, your PFD and your clothing are really essential before we even start thinking about actually fishing. The last thing you're going to need a way of calling for help. It's really important that you can contact someone in case you get into trouble. Personally, I have an ICOM 25 radio, M25 radio. It's waterproof. It monitors channel 16. I also monitor the local fishing channel in case there's any interesting gossip. But ICOM radio, for me, that's a VHF. That's what I use. You'll also see me carry some sort of phone case. I also have a sounder that uses my phone, so I keep a waterproof phone case. It doesn't really matter whether you've got one of these for £5 or a VHF radio. You have to have a way of calling for help if you get into trouble. So we've talked about what you need to start kayak fishing. Let's talk about actually catching fish.
That's not bad. That's not a bad way of doing it. Oh, no, it's off.
I take out 3 rods with me. I like having the versatility. The first rod that I bought was a Ron Thompson hardcore spinning rod. The eye on that's broken. It was £20. For me, cheap kayak rods are the way I go, just because of the risk of flipping. I don't want to lose gear. So the next kind of rods that I've bought, I've got a Shakespeare Omni 8 to 16 pound rod, and I often pair that up with a baitcaster reel. This one doesn't have a reel on it at the moment. I use this when I'm fishing maybe light lures, although I do find the sensitivity on the tip not great, or feathers. It's just a great all-round rod. £20, does me a good job. This is my second one. I did lose one when I flipped once, although I did pick it up off the beach a few days later. Good rod. So the next rod that I use, that you'll see a lot, is the Shakespeare Ugly Stick. This is a brilliant kayak rod. It's short, it's just over 5 foot. I think it's 5 foot bang on actually. Great rod. I've got that paired up with some little imitation sand eels at the moment. I recently was out trying to catch some winter fish using summer lures, and you'll see that video come up probably after this one. So Shakespeare Ugly Stick, 12 to 20 pound rod. Really like it. I've got that paired up with a Sea Night reel. This reel, was £38 off Amazon when I bought it. It's gone up a bit in price now. It's about £44 now. Great reel. As long as you rinse them, a little bit of WD-40, GT85 on the reel, and does me no bother at all. I've used this, had this reel now out on the kayak for probably 2 years, and it's never seized. So I would like a Penn slammer, or a Penn Authority, maybe not that much, but a Penn slammer would be a great reel for me, but I can't afford a Penn slammer, so I've got a Sea Night cheap reel. I've got 30-pound braid on that, colour changing, so that I can tell my depths. This rod I use with bait sometimes, or again with feathers or maybe some of my jigs. Talking about jigs, I recently bought a jigging rod. I use this out on the boat quite a bit, and I've just started taking it out on the kayak, and you'll have seen this in the last video when I caught the big cod, or the last video where I caught a fish, I suppose I should say, because that video is now a couple of weeks old. It's up on the channel. It says first kayak fishing trip of winter, brilliant encounter with a seal, but also the first time I'd taken this rod out in the kayak. So this is a Penn jigging conflict rod, or a Penn conflict jigging rod, rated up to 200 grams, so you can use it in some strong current. I've got that paired up with an Abu Garcia baitcaster reel. I probably called it a Daiwa reel, I think, on the channel. It's not a Daiwa reel, it's an Abu Garcia baitcaster, 30-pound braid, and I also use a 30-pound leader on this. This one isn't colour changing. There wasn't any in stock when I got the reel, so I just stuck with green, and I use a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Really good rod. Haven't used it out on the kayak much. It's not the cheapest rod. This is a one-piece, so it's not like the other two, which are fairly cheap rods. I think as I've been getting a more confident kayaker, I've definitely started taking out more expensive rods on the kayak, but I'm really paranoid about losing them. So yeah, just keep safe with this one. Brilliant rod. So you've seen in my last video that I really like using slow jigs. Now, the first edit of this, I was able to show you the two slow jigs that I really like. The one that I caught that big cod on, this Savage Gear mackerel imitation, I lost it in a snag when I was out yesterday, and you'll see that video in the future, probably the next video after this one, like I said. But I do have some other slow jigs that I've been wanting to try out that I haven't had an opportunity yet, so I'm going to show you those now. So I said I really like slow pitch jigging. Most of the lures I take out in the kayak are slow jigs, or some sort of jig, speed jigging, slow jigs. I do carry some soft plastics. This is a Coastal Storm mackerel imitation. It's covered in dog hair because I just picked it up off the floor. So that's one there. The H2O lures, HTO, not H2O, HTO slow jigs. I think they've stopped making these now. When I got these, I think I bought one, caught 4 fish, and then went out and bought about 7 of them. They're £8 each, so they're not cheap, but they're absolutely brilliant around here for cod. The H2O jig, I've just hooked myself. Really good lures. I've never blanked with this lure at this spot. If I take these lures out, this spot is like killer. Cod City, that's what I call it. Goodbye, my friend. This is the new ones that I've just bought. I've lost one of these already to a snag. Haven't caught many fish on them. I think I caught a mackerel. As soon as it was hooked, these are big hooks, it was pretty much done for. I don't think it fought at all. I think it was hook in, lights out. But yeah, H2O Norse, no, they're not H2O. The Sidewinder Norse God series. So there's the Thor, the Loki, and the Odin. These were all made by, it says here, made in conjunction with Silver Halo Charters. I haven't really had a chance to use them yet. Like I said, I've caught 1 mackerel, but I'm really looking forward to giving these a shot. I've got everything in weights-wise from 100 grams up to 200 grams, depending on the drift. Sometimes I do need a lighter lure, and that's where those HTO jigs come in handy. Norse God lures. Really important that you carry a knife. I can't stress this enough. If you get tangled up in lines, you want to make sure you've got a knife to cut yourself free. I carry a dive knife that straps to my leg. It's what I need. I also carry a survival knife sometimes, and maybe some pocket knives, just some opening knives. Anything to sort of kill fish, gut fish, cut bait. But for me, carry a knife on my leg. You'll see that quite a lot. Not so much in the recent videos. I've been carrying a knife in my jacket recently, but in a lot of the time I carry a dive knife on my leg so I can quickly access it if I do fall out my kayak. You'll see some great videos on YouTube of people catching really big fish, you know, big marlin, big sort of taupe in the UK. If you get tangled up and you've got a lot of a strong line out, it's not going to be good for you. Carry a knife so you can cut yourself free. It's really important. So that brings me on to the next point, which is that episode 2 of this series is going to be about safety. It's going to be talking about how to read waves, when to kayak, when not to kayak, and carrying a knife, getting tangled up with fish. That's going to be maybe a little bit part of that video as well. So just make sure that you keep yourself safe when you're out on your kayak. So finally then, the last thing to talk about is my sounder. Sounders, right. I use a Deeper Pro. Is it a good sounder? Yes. Does it work all the time? No. And I've lost it. Because I don't know which way I'm drifting. Because the phone sounder is not working. I've lost my drift. It's a good sounder. It really helps me find structure. And we know that fish follow structure. Does it find fish? Debatable. It definitely picks up seals. Is that a seal? Some sort of big mammal? Because it's fish. It's obviously not interested in what I have to offer. But I've never really seen much fishy bars on it. We've got a really nice Garmin on the boat, so I might upgrade to a Garmin Striker 4 or 5 for the kayak. But when I started kayak fishing, this wasn't super expensive. It connects to your phone. I didn't need any wiring. Do you know what? It does me well. It does have its faults though. I wish it would just work sometimes. But mostly it's due to connection with the GPS and the phone. But the Deeper Pro, for me, is a good sounder. Final 2 things to talk about are wheels and a fish box. You need somewhere to store your fish. I kayak with the orange fish box that you'll have seen in some of my videos and some of the clips I've got in here. That came with the kayak. I might have bought it as sort of an upgrade. It's got space. I can put cool packs in it. It does me fine. There's nothing worse than not having a cool box with you or some sort of box to put your fish in and having them flopping about the footwell. Recently, on a recent trip, we had to go and rescue some lobster pots. We have a boat as well, me and some friends, and the engine had some trouble. We didn't want to take it out until we got the engine problem fixed. We knew there was a storm coming. We had pots out, so me and a good friend of mine went out on the kayaks and rescued 2 lobster pots. I never cut the clips together because there was quite a big smudge on one of the lenses on my GoPros, so it just didn't feel right to put it up on the channel. But I'm going to cut in some clips of that now because it's worth a watch. If you are interested in watching the full video, comment down below and I'll cut the whole thing together and we'll just ignore the smudge. We'll just pretend it's not there. Yeah, this is ours. Okay, so the question is...
Do you want to hold on to your boat?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You could raft up with me, is that right?
Yeah, you grab hold of it and then I'll put it together.
Okay. This is ours, definitely. I'm going to haul it on my... I think I'll haul it on my left, on my right. Well, let's just see what I get. No, I think I'm going to haul it on my left. I think that's where I'm going to come in. Oh, why don't we do it like that? Why don't we go in the middle? Is that going to work?
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me just...
I don't mind trying to pull it.
Shall I try and pull it?
Right, you hold it on. No, we don't want this to go this way. We want it to be your
side.
Like, one of the sides anyway.
Flick it over.
No, we want the rope to come on the side because all the weight will go down that side and I can hold 2 hands onto this side. Stop
Okay.
flipping.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I think that'll be worth it. So let go and I'll move around.
Nice.
That.
Got it. Okay.
Right, that's
So-
flipped on, so ignore that.
Mine isn't.
That's fine. I can hold that.
Right, and if you...
That can go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter where the rope goes, apart from my face. I'd say you just pull it up slack rope at the
At
moment.
the moment, I think so. That's me on the pot now, I think. Yeah.
So I got it.
Hang on, you slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, well we're there, so. And 2?
2.
Oh, no.
3.
Oh,
Oh. And a little velvet.
The one thing that I've not mentioned, and I think I've said the final thing a few times. I need wheels for my kayak because I live so close to the beach. I'm a 9-minute walk. It's just easy to wheel it down. One of the downsides of the Galaxy Kayak is it is quite heavy. I think it's 33 kilos, so you can't just lift it and carry it on your shoulders if you're walking 9 minutes. So get some wheels. I've got Railblazer C-Tug wheels. For me, they're good wheels. I don't need anything extra. Does me fine. And then to wrap up, make sure you rinse your gear. You'll have seen today that I'm showing you wet gear. Like I said, this is the second time I filmed this. The first time, everything was dry. This time, everything's wet. I literally was out yesterday. It then rained a downpour today, so nothing's dried. But it's really important you rinse your gear with salt. That will give it longevity. Rinse everything off. It just makes life much easier. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm looking forward to putting together the next 2 parts of this over the Christmas period. But if you have enjoyed it, please give it a like, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Good night.